For so long, most of the media has let Donald Trump hit from the ladies' tee until last night when this lady teed one up on him.
Your campaign website to this day argues that more visas for highly skilled workers would, quote, decimate American workers. However, at the CNBC debate, you spoke enthusiastically in favor of these visas. So which is it?
I'm changing. We need highly skilled people in this country, and if we can't do it, we'll get them in.
So you are abandoning the position on your website.
I'm changing it, and I'm softening the position because we have to have talented people in this country.
So he's changed. I like that. Good for him. I applaud him for admitting this, and Megyn as well for asking that important question. But it is weird. Days ago, he championed American workers, were placed at Disney, then last night defended the use of foreign tech workers. That's got to be a record flip-flop. Now, the definition of establishment is one who seeks power and does anything to hold on to it, meaning say anything to get elected, then abandon those promises. We just saw that from the man who condemns it in others. Quote, they're taking our jobs, is now, we have to have talented people in this country. I absolutely agree, but I wonder how others feel. Has anyone checked in on David Duke? But we can change our minds, and at least he did it before the election, not after. The question is, would he have told us if we didn't ask? Last night we learned a little more about a potential president, and that is, we know very little at all. It's all in his head, and it's subject to change. Based on what? Does anyone know? Does he really know? Meanwhile, Hillary tweeted this joke, mocking the debate. That's a picture of her rubbing her temples at a Benghazi hearing. Yes, a presumptive nominee used a hearing about the deaths of 4 Americans as a punchline about the debate. Sorry, nothing from the Republican debate comes even close to that classless act. She can't be president, and there is no debating that. All right. More on the debate in a moment, lots of stuff, but we want to bring in some lady named Dana Perino, who's out at CPAC today near Washington. There's some news that broke there today. Dana, can you fill us in?
I can. Sean Hannity's actually behind us, interviewing Ted Cruz, who just spoke. Excited crowd. Ben Carson's coming up. Tomorrow, Marco Rubio is set to speak, and Donald Trump was scheduled to speak, but he decided earlier today that he is not going to come to CPAC, to this big crowd of grassroots individuals. He's going to continue campaigning. I guess he thinks that's a good decision for him. I talked to some folks at CPAC today, and they said that they would have liked to have him here. Even, John Kasich spoke earlier today, and he got a standing ovation. So this is a polite crowd, and I think that he probably would have done well here with this group of people, but he decided not to come.
Do you think he didn't come because he knew you would be there, and possibly with that cutout of Jasper?
Jasper's everywhere. Flat Jasper is like John Kasich got a picture with Flat Jasper. I mean, who wouldn't want one? Except for you.
I know. Kimberly, wise decision to back out?
Well, no, I always would take an opportunity if I was running, for the office of the presidency to reach voters. But I don't know what his, reasons are. Perhaps it was a format issue. But I do know that he's spoken and was well received at CPAC in the past. So it's a place that he's gone on other occasions and done, quite well. So I don't know. But Dana, are you having a good time there?
I am. I saw some great fans of the 5, and we'll talk about the panel I did later. I always have to say, the video of the 5 was well received. Everybody loves all of us on the show, and even Juan. Kidding, Juan. Of course they love you. Of course they love you. Yeah, so it's been really great, and it's interesting to be here amongst people. I did some interviews along Radio Row, and one of the questions I'm always asked is, are you just despairing of what's happening to the Republican Party? And I would say, yeah, of course, as a lifelong Republican, I'm concerned, but I also believe that the values of conservatism are rooted in principles that are everlasting. They're not going to go away in the next 2 weeks before Super Tuesday, or the next big voting on March 15th. And so this crowd is excited, and they also know that there's really big issues in front of them, including the economy. That's been one of the #1 things talked about here at CPAC throughout the day.
Eric, what do you... Go ahead.
Oh, can I ask Dana, interesting, is there a sea change going at CPAC? That has historically been far-right conservative people that show up there. And I know Matt Schlapp took over, I think last year, if I'm not mistaken. He seems to be grabbing a wider group of conservatives. In other words, far-right, yes, but also maybe a little bit towards the middle as well. Is that accurate?
I think it would be, I think so, Eric, but I think I would describe it as more of expanding rather than limiting, right? So adding, not subtracting. There's a lot of young people here, and in fact, Ted Cruz knows his audience very well. He was just telling Sean Hannity, of course, that there were 17 people in the race, and now there are only 4, and that a lot of people here probably initially supported a different candidate. And he said, anybody here ever support Rand Paul? And there's a huge applause line for Ted Cruz just supporting Rand Paul, because usually, you know, Ron Paul did well here. Rand Paul probably would have done well here in the straw poll, at least. So yeah, I would say there's an expansion, and very interesting to see how many different young people are here. I asked Benny Johnson, what's like the #1 thing people worry about in their lives as a millennial? Like, what's their first big political moment? And he had an interesting answer. It wasn't 9/11, and it wasn't the financial crisis. He said it's when you get your first paycheck and you realize that half of what you have worked so hard for is being taken away, plus student loans. So I think that there's an expansion here at CPAC under Matt Schlapp's leadership. I think that's a good thing.
Dana, Melissa Francis, I'm keeping your seat warm here. Let me ask you, you know, you can always tell a lot by what people are talking about on the ground. What are they saying to you when they come up to you?
That they love the 5, that they love Jasper, and
also about the election. Anything about the election?
I have to say, I think that they're just so excited that they're to be here. Again, the economy, millennials. One of the biggest concerns, like to the young, I've mostly talked to mostly young people here, and one of the things that concerns me is that you hear them say that they don't believe that the American dream is still available to them. And they want to believe that America is exceptional. But they're very concerned about their economic future because they don't see a way to get ahead. And Melissa, you know that well. You cover the Fox Business Channel so well. And so they're worried about that and looking to see how conservative policies could actually help meet their goals of a prosperous and growing economy.
Very true.
Hey, Dana, it's Juan. I think that Trump made a good move because this is about winning, and I don't think he's going to get any specific state in his pocket as a result of speaking at CPAC. I think he's got to be in Michigan. He's got to move toward Florida and try to lock it up. I think that's what that's about.
So I saw John Kasich earlier today before he spoke, and apparently he thinks that Michigan is looking very good for him. He looked like he was very happy, you know, after his debate. And if you're a candidate at this point, Donald Trump or anyone else, you'd like to have, you know, multiple personalities so that you can be in lots of different places at once. Yes, I think it's important to be in Michigan or other states where there's going to be a primary coming up Tuesday or next week. But I also think that this crowd, when you are looking at a need to consolidate the Republican Party, to unify, that I don't think I would have missed this opportunity. And I do think that Donald Trump would have been welcomed here, and I think he probably would have done very well. I understand that if he were to change his mind, they would be glad to have him here on Saturday, tomorrow.
Let's talk about what happened last night, the debate. You know, I thought Fox did an amazing job. It was a chaotic, raucous event. It was wild, but it was
knockout. It was amazing. They had 2 hours, 4 candidates, and they asked tough questions, and they asked tough questions of everyone. They held everyone's feet to the fire. In fact, Donald Trump wasn't on the last debate that Fox hosted, and they had used those full screens.
Right.
And so people saw full screens for Trump and didn't see him for others, but that was because they were catching up from what they didn't have the opportunity to ask about. And Megyn did, yeah. And I think they all did just a fantastic job. Brett's question at the end was just stunning and jaw-dropping. If Donald Trump is the nominee, would you support him? And everyone was waiting because all of this GOP pushing back, I can't support Trump, I can't, no, never Trump hashtags, whatnot. And every single one of them said, you know what, I'll support the GOP nominee. And that was
honor the pledge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well,
whoever it is.
Yeah, but what did Trump say? He said, I'm going to be the nominee. So, but the thing that struck me about this, 2 things. One is, I thought everybody was aiming at Trump, including the people who were moderating. I don't know if that was out of necessity or whatever, but he's the front runner. The second thing is the audience. Man, it was like WWE in there. I understand they had to throw people out, but it was loud and raucous. Yeah. I thought, wow, they're taking control of this debate. It was like, you know, play the best line for the applause and the hooting and the hollering.
Yeah, it started, I mean, I was there, right? So before it started and people were just like piling in there, super excited. They were so loud before it even got started. For whatever you even saw on television, they were loud during the breaks. During every break, they had to tell them, hey, guys, let's be respectful to the candidates, which was necessary. And
Right.
they did a nice job. You know, the moderators, obviously, you know, Brett and Megan and Chris were outstanding and well prepared. So I thought it was a very good night. And, yeah, I mean, you know, Trump was taking like heavy C-130 fire all night, no doubt.
He knew that was going to happen.
Of course.
Yeah.
And guess what? I thought he handled it well.
The only
and,
issue,
you know, the crowd I thought was pretty good in terms of being not just, you know, one-sided like we've seen in some instances in prior debates. They were definitely, he had supporters. Everybody, you know, had their supporters there. And I talked to him actually for a while after the debate, and to Melania and to Eric Trump. They were very happy with the debate, and they were happy with Fox and, you know, how it went. So I thought it was a very good night.
Can I run just some piece of tape from the debate, and then I'll go to you? This is the most interesting thing, because it now reflects another change in Donald Trump, what he said. This is when he was talking about the military and getting the military to do what he wants.
Experts have said that when you ask the U.S. military to carry out some of your campaign promises, specifically targeting terrorist families and also the use of interrogation methods more extreme than waterboarding, the military will refuse because they've been trained to turn down and refuse illegal orders. So what would you do as Commander-in-Chief if the U.S. military refused to carry out those orders?
They won't refuse. They're not going to refuse me, believe me.
But targeting terrorist families?
I've always been a leader. I've never had any problem leading people. If I say do it, they're going to do it. That's what leadership is all about.
So, Melissa, since then, they issued a statement saying he understands that the United States is bound by laws. So, basically saying that he could force the military to do war crimes. He has walked back.
Yeah, he says he doesn't want to go to The Hague after all. He doesn't want to be convicted of war crimes, which I totally understand. I wouldn't either. But I take issue with what you said at the beginning, because you said that, you know, it's a flip-flop. It's the definition of somebody in power, you know, comes in and says one thing to get elected and then changes later. I don't think it's quite that with him. I think that he's willing to talk freely off the cuff when someone asks him a question.
Right.
So he makes the answer, and then later he goes and he gets more information, he thinks about it, and he decides that's not what he really thought. I don't think it's promising one thing to make people happy. I think it's just talking freely off the cuff. I don't know if that's better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary because in a way it's like he hasn't thought through his positions.
Well,
and he's
he likes
about them first.
I think what you're saying is he loves to talk and talk and talk, and if you approach him, he might change his mind.
Yeah.
But he admits that freely, and
Finally.
he did it on the stage. Look, I changed on 2 different occasions. He said, "I've changed. I've thought about it, and I've changed."
Marco.
Right. But isn't that look? You may not like the guy, but at least it's refreshing, and maybe he'll teach the other politicians on the stage and not to say.
A minute ago, Republicans saying, "Oh, it's so refreshing." He tells it like it is. He's a bully. He's great. He just slugs them and knocks them out, and he says it like we want to hear it.
He's a bully.
Now you're saying, "Oh, no. Now he's flexible. Now he's, you know what? He has changed. He's running in a general election. He thinks he has it wrapped up. That's what's going on.
He's moving to the center. But I mean, but no, the fact is, this goes against everything he has criticized politicians of doing. Saying what needs to be said and then changing it when you want to win.
But he's not saying what
after they win. And that was a very good distinction you made. Politicians will say what they want to get elected. Once they get elected, they can't. The only thing they can think about, and we know this, we interview enough politicians, they don't care about what their promises they made, repealing Obamacare or cutting spending. They care from minute one about their next re-election campaign and how they're going to raise money.
That's why he
and who they're going to do favors for to get money for their next re-election.
Minutes ago at CPAC, Cruz said that he's going to abolish the IRS, repeal Obamacare, and create a flat tax. There's somebody promising this guy on things that he simply cannot deliver, and that's what people out there are sick of, promises that are impossible as nice as they would be.
I want to get a last word to Dana, if she's still there, on her thoughts on the debate, and then we got to move on. Dana, you there?
Yes, I am. I thought that having 4 candidates instead of even 6 was good for every candidate but Donald Trump. I think that one of the things that happened last night on that war crime point in particular is that had been building through the week. There's a lot to cover in a campaign, and I don't know if they have enough staff to be able to look around and say, okay, now the military is saying they would not follow that order. It's not because they would disobey the commander-in-chief, it would be because it was against the law. Therefore, the commander-in-chief would never want to ask its military to do that. I think he was right to change it, but I think that if you are concerned about national security on the substance of a lot of issues and not just national security, that was not a shining moment. I also think that a lot of people that want to run for office, they do it with all sincerity. And then, yeah, there is over-promising on all sides, and that includes from Donald Trump, which has been one of my concerns from the very beginning, from day one, when he said, I'm going to bring back all the jobs from China. That's not going to happen. You can bring back some jobs from China by encouraging American companies to stay here through better taxes and regulations, but you're not going to bring all the jobs back. Overpromising is a sure way to disappoint your voters.
All right. Thank you, Dana. We're going to see you a little later this hour for more of your fun time at CPAC.
Don't overpromise, Matt.
Don't overpromise. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Maybe great. I don't know, really.